So I hope everyone's on a really good Valentine's Day, and I wanted to make a video today on flexible thinking. And I've said this on a number of videos, and it's just something which I'm very passionate about. I think it's very beneficial, and I just want to go in more depth with it on this video, just talking about the history of it as well. And just for people who don't know, in psychology they call flexible thinking cognitive flexibility. So it's the ability to maintain two thoughts simultaneously without jumping to conclusion or without cognitive dissonance. So again, it's actually thinking about things in a more methodical way. You can look at the grand scope of a large portion of people's opinions and then kind of dissect each one. You can come to conclusion on your own opinion a lot easier. Sometimes I think people struggle doing this, and this is why I'm kind of making this video. I think some people, it's more important for them to be right or to feel right, and completely demolish relationships because it is more important for them to be right in their own opinion. Now, if you're more flexible thinker, you're not really as concerned with your own opinion as much as you want to just know the truth. And by thinking about this kind of, you can maintain and entertain multiple thoughts all at once. You can really come to a better conclusion on things from, see, when you're doing your own self-reflection work, you can look at it from different vantage points. And usually you come to some greater conclusion, some kind of greater sense of purpose. Because you're looking at it from the big scope of the entire world sometimes, or from a group of friends, or from multiple different sources of information. You can really dissect it, and you're not bound by one opinion maybe being your own sometimes. I think this is probably more true people who have naturally more empathy. You can see it through the other person's eyes very easily. That's kind of like sometimes a blessing and a curse to people. Like with myself, it's very easy for me to do that. I can very easily get in someone's head, look at it from their angle, see how they're interpreting something, seeing how they feel. It's kind of almost like telepathy. It's very weird, but sometimes I have to ease off the empathy sometimes, because there's no need to get engulfed with people's emotions and stuff like that and get inside their head too much. So but it's interesting looking at the history of this, because even from like the ancient Greek times, Aristotle, he would refer to this as being the golden mean. It's the desired middle point between two extremes, that you can see it from a centered point of view. Now, and as well, even with Confucius and Chinese philosophy, saying about the doctrine of the mean, meaning the middle point. And as well, I'm trying to think of another one. Even in Buddhism, they refer to this as being the middle way. And the only kind of thing I have a problem with this is, even though it is a very good way to look at it, the only problem with this, you could argue, is that if you're always going for the center point of view, or actually just to backtrack a little bit, when I was reading this book in my foundation year a couple of years ago at university, I read this book called The Fourfold Way, and highly recommend it. And it's a book of the four archetypes, so the teacher, the visionary, the healer, and the warrior. And there's a really kind of underpinning philosophy the author actually mentions, being that we shouldn't fall into patterns of either denial or indulgence. And meaning by that, usually when we deny ourselves of a certain feeling or a certain emotion, we usually trigger a supercompensation effect, meaning that, so for example, if you're feeling sad and you deny that sadness and pretend that you're actually really happy, you actually supercompensate on the happy, and you've actually denied your own feelings, and you have that really unfortunate, almost kind of a guilty feeling, maybe possibly even shameful feeling, of not being very authentic, and it feels incredibly uncomfortable. So again, we're trying not fall into pattern denial or indulgence. So again, you're not, there's no, like Carl Jung said, there's no real bad emotion. It's only when you make an emotion an identity. So again, even shame in moderate doses, and sadness in moderate doses is fine. It's just when we make that our identity, where it can become a problem, because you're viewing the world through one lens. You're actually indulging in an emotion. So again, we're trying to fall not in patterns of denial or indulgence. So with that kind of frame of reference and setting the foundation, setting the stage for what I'm about to say, when we're focusing just on the middle way, I think there is a tendency sometimes to then fall into lazy patterns of thinking, because you could argue by always going in the middle, that is an indulgent quality. You're overindulging it. So you could say that, even with moderation, it needs to be practiced in moderation. What I am saying is you're using the middle point as a vantage point to look at every other option. I'm not suggesting that you just go for the middle in everything. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you look at it from a very analytical point of view. And you're in that was a mode where you can look at things simultaneously. And you can make a better decision with the wisdom you have in that particular moment to make the best decision for you. Now, that is a very difficult skill to actually maintain. It requires a lot more cognitive effort, a lot more patience. But I think that is a very, it's a better way to live, because I think oftentimes the purest form of ignorance isn't lack of general knowledge. I think it's a lack of self-awareness. I think that is the most self-destructive form of ignorance, because it's like holding a grenade, pulling a pin, and then wondering why your life feels like World War III. You don't understand what's going on around you, or I really think that it's kind of like the worst form of ignorance is being unconscious of making bad choices. And when you're kind of no matter how many times you blame someone else, there's always three fingers pointing back at you, that you are that point of origin for how your life unfolds. So we have to be very self-aware, and unfortunately we're not taught that. For people who are more, I suppose you, just for the lack of better terms, people are more extroverted, they're more external focused, so their life is determined by their externals more than so their internals. I mean, introversion is the sake of going inwards, introspective work. So my point being that you shouldn't fall into patterns of now indulgence, and we shouldn't just default to the middle way. We should use the middle way as a way of looking at new landscapes and new patterns of thinking, really analysing people's opinions, not just jumping to conclusion with our own, and being dominant and forceful in our own opinion. What we should be doing is looking at what is actually truthful and what is not. It's kind of like what they say in a courtroom, you have to tell the truth and the whole truth. And we should be looking for the whole truth. Sometimes we're looking just to satisfy our own opinion too much sometimes, and we are not looking at things in a critical manner, because we are not really taught to think critically in school. We're taught to remember. So I hope this makes sense. So again, I think with the golden mean, the doctrine of the mean, the middle way, all found in ancient Greeks, Chinese philosophy, and in Buddhism, they're all fantastic mechanisms to think about something from more. Think about something in a more critical way. But we have to not just default to that setting. We have to just use that as a vantage point to then look at everyone else's opinions, our own opinions, multiple sources of information without jumping to conclusion. And if people were just a little bit more methodical in their thinking, they would actually make better choices. Oftentimes we're doing things because we've kind of subordinated to everyone else's opinion, everyone else's values, what are the societal means, the standards, the conventional wisdom, not the unconventional wisdom. So again, I think cognitive flexibility, it kind of coincides with self-awareness, it kind of coincides with patience, wisdom. Oftentimes I think we learn more. The Latin definition of intelligence isn't memorization. The Latin definition of intelligence is understanding. And I think you understand more when you can look at things, again, from a more objective point of view, as opposed to rushing to conclusion or passing judgment on one opinion and then ignoring that and then just going with your own. If you can look at things like simultaneously like that, you not only do you learn more about things in yourself, but you also make better decisions at the end of the game. It's kind of like Tony Robbins said, your destiny's, it's in your moments of decision what shape your destiny. So again, we're not defaulting to just our own opinion. We have to get outside our own head sometimes and just look at it very critically. And then obviously do our own research and stuff like that. But again, it sets the stage, I think. Like a lot of times I say, my own personal mission statement and purpose is teaching people how to teach themselves, how to become more resilient, get in the best shape of their lives, become more optimistic. Through the purpose and the process of preparation, we prepare for something greater. When I'm saying these on these videos, this is just for the sake of preparation for yourself. We're using personal growth. Sorry, I kind of messed up my own purpose, and this is so embarrassing. We're using personal growth, in my opinion. It's the process of personal growth for the purpose of preparation, so we can prepare for greater challenges and greater levels of prosperity. It is a mechanism that we're using to devise, the weak links in our armor. And then when we go to battle, because I really do believe that we should be battle tested. Where there's no challenge, there's no value. So again, through personal growth, you can really work on yourself where you might feel there's weaknesses, turn them into strengths, and then burst through certain challenges and then achieve certain levels of prosperity because of that. Sometimes when we're just meandering around and we're not very self-aware, we're making decisions on the unconscious level, which could be bad choices for us. So again, the more in line we can get with our own values, and this is another thing, this is a very obscure video, I do apologise, I'm just kind of free-flowing to get some ideas out. When we make decisions based on our own values, we're living the most congruent life possible with ourselves, meaning that we are the most happiest, because we're doing things we enjoy. The set of values we have is the set of priorities a person has based on the decisions they make, based on the things they enjoy, the things they naturally do. So whatever your highest value is what the Greeks call the telos. That is the means to an end, and teleology is the study of purpose and meaning. That is usually our highest value, so that is our purpose, our mission statement. And then the subsequent values after that are the ones that fulfill that purpose. So, you could say or argue your highest values are the things you do very naturally, very spontaneously. If you're the kind of person to get up and read for 2 hours, I would say that maybe learning and reading is a high value of yours. If you get up and you train for 3 hours a day in the gym because you're an athlete, I would say health and fitness is a very big value of yours, and vice versa. If working a part-time job and you really enjoy, communicating with people, you could say communication and connection is a value of yours, or whatever it might be. You can usually tell people's values by how they spend their time. So just to bring everything full circle, if we know our values, we can clearly identify what our values are. We can make better decisions because of it. By making better decisions, you're not making bad decisions on an unconscious level. And by having this cognitive flexibility, you can look at thoughts simultaneously without rushing to judgment or without cognitive dissonance being stress. Again, so you can see things from a bit more of a critical angle. I really think sometimes we are so focused on our own opinion that we always have to be right with everything. We have to be right because it seems weak if we give up our opinion, if we're too unyielding. By doing this, you can make better decisions, better choices. You can live, in the research they call this congruence, that your thoughts are in alignment with your actions. I think it's a Japanese philosophy, if I remember correctly. Right? There's a word called kokoro, which means the merging of your heart. Merging of your heart and your mind in your actions. And that's what it means. It means that your desires and your actions are all in alignment and congruent with how you think and feel, and you're acting in alignment with them. Oftentimes we are comparing ourselves and subordinating to everyone else's opinions, everyone else's values, as opposed to living congruently and in alignment with our own. And when you do that, you are your most happiest, you're most productive, you are actually at your most resilient when you do that. It's when people are extremely passionate about something, they are relentless in that endeavor because they're living in alignment with their values. If you're living by the lower values, which are really the least of your importance, and you really don't find time for them because really they're not your highest values. People tend to put off them things, and tend to lower them things to try and get to the higher values. And when you're living by your lower values, you're just miserable because you're not doing things you enjoy, the things that rev you up, the things you're passionate about, the things that you can't you can't wait to do. Wake up in the morning, delve into them because you're so passionate about it. And again, if we can just and sometimes as well, I think sometimes we have to restructure our values because we've centered our values around things that other people want, whether that be having children too early or settling down for a career way too early, not studying, whatever it is, partying. We tend to put our these people on the podium sometimes, and then we inject them in values in ourselves when really they're not really our values. No, no one person really has the same set of values. I don't think they might be similar, but they're never identical in the same order, the same thing. So again, so just to reiterate for the final time. So again, I think we should try and focus on our cognitive flexibility, and also being very self-aware and being very self-aware with our own values, because then if we can live in a state of congruence, we can make better choices and not make bad choices on the unconscious level. So hope you guys have enjoyed that video. If you've got any questions, comment below. Have a good Valentine's Day, and I'll speak to you soon. Thank you very much.